Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to 21st Century Literature class. And for today's topic, we will be dealing with lesson number 6. Lesson number 6, which is about linguistic context. And for today's topic, we will be dealing with lesson number 6. Lesson number 6 talks about contextual reading approaches under literary reading through a linguistic context. So let's now proceed. So let's have first a content standard under this lesson. The learner will be able to understand and appreciate the elements and context of 21st century Philippine literature from the regions. While for the performance standard we do have, the learner will be able to demonstrate, understand, and appreciate 21st century Philippine literature from the regions through the following. First, a written close analysis and critical interpretation of a literary text in terms of form and theme, with a description of its context derived from research, and an adaptation of a text into other creative forms using multimedia. While for the most essential learning competencies under this lesson, we do have two. First, identify different ways one may evaluate a literary text specifically by examining its linguistic context. And second, discuss how different contexts enhance the text meaning and enrich the reader's understanding. Now, as we go on and understand lesson number 6, which is about the linguistic context, this will be our guide question. What is the importance of understanding the way language is used in literary text? So, as we go on, these will be the topics to be discussed and understand with lesson number 6. First, what are the reasons why do we need to read literature through linguistic context? Second, what are the strategies that we may use to read a text through a linguistic context? Third, what are the guide questions that may help us when we read literature through linguistic context? Fourth, what are the tips before reading a text through linguistic context? And fifth, what are the linguistic perspectives, the theories? And last, what is the performance task under this lesson? So let's proceed. But before we have the first topic, let us understand first what you mean by linguistic. Linguistic is associated with language. So if it is associated with language, definitely we're gonna be talking about how language shape the understanding of the audience in terms of the literary works. Okay? So let's have first the first topic. What are the reasons to read literature through linguistic context by Gia and Kennedy 2007. The first reason why do we need to read literature through linguistic context is first, we can understand the text on its own. Just in case we don't get the biography and sociocultural context of the text. So it may help us understand that the literary text through analyzing the words, the sentences, the patterns, the imagery, etc. of the text. Meaning, the words surrounding into the literary work help us understand already what is behind the text. Okay? Second, the second reason is when we analyze the literary text grammar, syntax, when we talk about syntax is structure of language, meaning the grammar, the joining of the words, how they were created, like that. So, or phonemic pattern. Phonemic pattern is about the sound pattern of the language that may help us find the meaning of the text within its form and help you interpret it by simply analyzing the content of the literary work. Okay? So, what are the strategies that we may use to read a text through the linguistic context? First, you need to understand and analyze the diction or choice of words in the text. Is it too technical? Or is it too simple? Or do you think the author uses the words of the millennials? Or do you think the authors use the words of the adults? meaning the words used by the authors depends on the level of the audience that she wants to cater. So that is what you mean by the diction or choice of words. And you look also into what specific language did the author use to put color into the literary work. Second, examine the text syntax or use of sentences, clauses, phrases, line cuts, or etc. There are some authors that they are not fond of long sentences. Some authors, in terms of poems naman, they are more of phrases, short phrases. So yung ganon. Or some authors, they just use yung mga conjunctions or yung mga subordination like yung if, yung mga and. Lahat ng poems niya, I mean, lahat ng lines ng poems ay may end. Lahat coordinating conjunction or whatsoever. Because that's the style of author. That's why you need to look into how the author used the words into his literary work. Third, observe the use of figurative language. Did he use personification, more of metaphorical level, more of paradoxical, oxymoron? So if you're gonna be looking into how words are shaped and also how words are used into the literary work, you will understand and try to deepen your understanding on how the writer and the author puts beauty into his literary work that makes you understand it. Another, analyze the mood and tone of the text. Through the words surrounding into the literary work, you will eventually identify what mood would like or what mood does the author wants you to see. Does it talks about a mood of loneliness, a mood of happiness, a mood of positivity, a mood of negativity, a mood of awareness? It depends. That's why you need to try to look into the words that the author used in the text. It can either be in poem, it can either be in fiction, or it can either be in a narrative one. So another one is observe the text overall structure. You need to look to the overview of the whole text, not just particularly one stanza, but or one paragraph, but you're looking into the overview of the text on how did he use different words or how did he try to mix words for you to understand what he wants to imply. Another one is analyze the content of the text. There are authors that they try to use symbolism into the words that they use. So, in terms of, for example, the poem of Jose Rizal, Saranggola ni Pepe, like that, wherein he doesn't really mean about Saranggola, but he means about Saranggola means of our dreams or of how we need to soar high, something like that. Okay? So, next one will be the guided questions that may help us when you read literature through a linguistic context. First, what were the striking words in text? What words were unfamiliar to you? Which words attracted your attention? What words were dramatic? What words help you understand the text? And what words help you imagine what is in the text? And help you imbibe on what is the situation going through within the literary work. Okay? So, words are very powerful in terms of that is a tool, because those words are the tools of the author for you to understand what is in the literary work. If it's a painting, they are more of the lines, the shapes, and all. But for the authors, their words are very powerful in terms of putting and communicating and giving message to the audience. Next, what nouns are the most prominent? Are these concrete or abstract? What about verbs? Does the author use common words or lofty diction, more of elegance? Or are the words short or long? Is there any word that has two or more meanings? Okay. So, try to look into not only the word itself, but you try to look into the meaning of the word, and you try to look into the repetition of the word. Baka kasi nare-repeat yung verbs, nare-repeat yung nouns and all. And at the same time, may mga cases diyan na yung name ng character, kaya na-produce nila yung name ng character na yon kasi yun pala yung style ng author. Gusto niya more of imaginative, more of mythology ang peg nung kanyang style of writing. That's why some authors, they try to use the Old English. So, it depends. Okay? Another one is, are there sentences in the usual order of subject predicate? What are the dependent clauses? What are the independent clauses? If you restructure a sentence or a phrase, would it make a difference? Is the voice active or passive? Is there a rhythm in the sentence structure in relation to the length of the sentences or line? What do you mean by this one? This is how the author formed the sentences within the literary work. Okay? You may think na, ma'am, is it really pa important to know the organization of the sentences, to know the organization of words within the sentences? Yes, it is important because some authors, that's their style. That's their style, that they start with a dependent clause. Okay? And then another with the independent clause. Okay? So, when you try to look into that one, sometimes, dahil dyan sa style na yan, dyan nagiging famous ang author. Kasi yun yung distinctive and unique style ng author for them to catch the attention of the audience. Okay? So, sometimes it's not only about the content, but it's also about the style of the author on how he pushed the words into his literary works. Okay? Another one is, what literary devices are used? Are there images? Do those images stand for anything aside from their literal meaning? That's what I'm telling you a while ago. There are some authors that they try to put symbolism into their experiences. So what you see is not what you get. Okay? What do you mean by what you see is not what you get? It is not literal. So there is a connotation. What do you mean by connotation? You need to read between the lines. There's another meaning behind the object itself or behind the word itself. That's why you need to dig deeper. Okay? So there are times that they use the simile like the word like, the word as, to intensify the similarities of the two. Or they do have also the direct comparison. Or they do have also the opposites. Or they do have also exaggeration. It depends on how the author would like to strike and put impact into the literary work. Another, what is the tone? Is the speaker happy about the subject? Is the tone negative or positive? So, parang ano lang yan parang sa kanta lang yan, di ba? Minsan, you will see, minsan, lahat ng kanta, magaganda. But, if you're gonna be looking into the words used by the writers or the writers into the literary piece or into the song piece, definitely, you will see na, may pinagdadaanan yung singer or may pinagdadaanan yung writer. Ang sakit sa puso. So, you try to understand the feelings of the author when you see the words and utter the words or sing the words. Okay? So, you will see if the author or the speaker into the poem, into the story, into the song is happy or sad, or is he negative about it or positive about it. Okay? So, yung words pa lang within the literary work will help you understand already ano ba ang pinagdadaanan ng author. What is the origin? Ano yung pinaguhugutan? Okay? Another one is, what is the structure of the text? Is it a narrative? Is it linear or non-linear? What is the point of view of the text? Is it a poem? What type of poem is it? So there are some authors that they try to use narrative way, like telling a story like that, or there are some naman na they just put it into feelings, okay, or they just put it into objects like symbolism. So you need to go deeper and deeper within the words. Parang ano lang yan eh, parang yung if you're looking into a masterpiece of painting, di ba pag ikaw, if you're not good in looking into and trying to analyze the painting, it's just merely painting. But for the artist, it's not just merely painting because there's a message between those lines or between with just period or between with just colors, okay? So, try to look into how the author present the words and what type or what style did the author use the words into presenting the message to the audience. So it's like, is it a narrative one, or did he use a poem, or did he use like more of like a love letter? It depends, okay? Next one is, does the language help in delivering and understanding its context? Is there a theme? What is it saying about its subject matter? How do the literary elements contribute to the effectiveness of the text? Always remember that sentences, words, phrases, they should be interconnected with each other. That's why I'm telling you, if you're a writer, it takes time for you to write because lots of ideas may be like circling into your thoughts, circling into your mind, but do you think they are interconnected with each other? Do you think they all hit with a theme? And do you think they all hit with a certain subject matter? So those words interconnected with each other, when they are put and fit into literary elements, they become effective, and more striking to the audience. Next one, what is the text saying about the world in general? What specific subject matter does these words or do these words try to hit into? Okay? What certain issue they are trying to discuss and pertain to. And for the tips before reading a text through the linguistic context, we do have, even if literature uses language, it doesn't mean that the structure of literature and the language are the same. Some writers may not follow grammatical rules, and this kind of deviation may be used in your analysis. You may ask, why is a text not following standard grammar, and other similar questions. In the other books, they try to look into and they try to say that if the writers deviate the grammatical rules, it's still acceptable because they do have what we call poetic license. Meaning the poetic license is a theory wherein authors and writers do not follow grammatical rules. They just write freely without looking into or thinking about grammatical rules and just follow the grammatical rules. Okay, the usage of language. Next one is, the characteristics of the language in which the text was written may help in analyzing the text. You may also ask, why is a text written in this language? Is this considered a weak language or a strong language? And other similar questions. There are some authors that they try to use other languages when they try to write certain literary work, or they try to put a combination of a local language into a certain literary work. Because the reason behind that is that they say that there's a greater impact, and then at the same time, a mixture of one culture to another culture will help audience to understand what perspective does the author wants to imply, and also to look into the richness of the geographical setting of the certain literary work. Okay, next one is, you may look into also and consult the literary approaches that will be presented later, which is about the structuralism, post-structuralism, and formalism, because these approaches may lead you in your view of reading through the linguistic context. Now, let's look into these three linguistic aspects, okay? So let's have first the structuralism. Structuralism is about relaying the text being examined to a larger structure. The structure may be a particular genre, a range of intertextual connection, a model of universal narrative structure, or a system of recurrent patterns or motifs. Just for example, the genre that you're watching or the genre that you're reading is more of adventure. So expect that the words that you will see there will try to look into different words that are associated with adventure. But if it's more of romantic side or romantic genre or romance, definitely you will see words that more of kissing, hugging, more of looking into the eyes of the characters, so staring like that. So structuralism is more of the words put into the literary work that has a larger structure, meaning they are under one classification, okay? So a system of recurrent patterns or motifs like that. Next one is formalism. If structuralism is more of the structure within the text that are classified into a certain classification, formalism is a school of literary criticism and literary theory that focuses on the structure itself, only with the structure, meaning the words of a particular text. It examines a text without taking into account any outside influence, meaning they don't look into the sociocultural, biographical, or any events that may affect the words surrounding into the literary work. Okay? While for the post-structuralism, this is the after effect of structuralism. Post-structuralism is the reaction to structuralism. In the linguistic context, there may be underlying structures that may have different interpretation based on how the words or phrases were used in the text. In short, when there is a structuralism, there comes a post-structuralism. After putting the words into a larger structure, this time, when you try to interpret it with the other influences of the characters, of the events, and all, that is what you call post-structuralism. Okay? Now, let's move on to the performance task under this lesson. You're about to compare and contrast The High and Dead by Merle M. Alunan to the poem, to any poem written by Rizal, and then make a literary analysis of the following poems. You try to look into how Merle M. Alunan used the words into The High and Dead, and while with the poem of Rizal, how does Rizal use words into his literary works? It can either be in narrative, poems, or whatsoever. Okay? So you may present it creatively through different forms like blog, what else? Not hashtag. You can also use quotes. It depends. Just make sure that you have the comparison and also the differences. So try to look into the similarities and differences of the use of language into the High and Dead and into the poems written by Rizal. Okay? So I want to end our lesson for today by the following quote on your screen. Be careful with your words. Once they are said, they can be only forgiven, not forgotten. So when you try to throw your words to person, just be careful and try to think first before saying those words, okay? So I hope you're safe with the recent typhoon Quinta and Rolly, and always think positive that we will surpass this event of our life, this 2020. Okay, so try to end it with a bang and with grace. So have a nice day, everyone, and stay safe and be happy.